I'm going to share my journey with this film and the reason why I have decided to make this film. I grew up reading a lot of politics and about the society. I take pride that I am a very, very politically and socially aware person. It's not that this film made me like that, I have always been like that. And even in colleges, I used to do debates. I was actively involved in the politics of my universities. And in debates and in dinner debates, post-dinner debates, with all my friends, I always knew a lot about international politics. In fact, I remember in my college days, nobody knew as much about Holocaust as I did. In fact, sometimes my professors would also call me and they would tell me this thing about the World War. 4 years ago, like Pallavi said, Dr. Surinder Kaur met me in a chance meeting in Houston. And he said, Vivekji, why don't you make a film, a documentary on our problem? I said, what problem? He said, Kashmir problem. I said, see, Kashmir problem is a very complex problem and nobody knows what is right, what is wrong, what's the truth. So what's the point making it, and who sees documentaries anyways? And so drop this idea. He told me one thing, he said, if you also say that, which means we have no hope, which means nobody is ever going to listen to our story. And the same day I was leaving back for India, and in the flight, the only thing which kept bothering me was, he said that nobody wants to listen to our story. And even if you don't want to listen, which means we have no hope. And on the flight, I kept wondering that everybody talks about Kashmir every day. In news channel, there is Kashmir every day. Everybody in the world talks about Kashmir, knows about it. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, they are always writing about Kashmir. Indian politics has always been about Kashmir. There was not even one day when in prime time news, there was not Kashmir news. Since I have been born in this world, not there been a single day when Kashmir was not a mainstream news. So I said, what is left to discuss in this? There have been many feature films, 8 or 9 big feature films, all of you have seen them, Roja, Dil Se, Shah Rukh Khan's film. And if you don't know, madam, for your advantage, these are the biggest stars of India and these are the biggest ever films. All these films have Kashmir at the center. Yet one person is saying that nobody wants to listen to our story. When I landed back in Mumbai, I immediately went on to researching. I mean, as soon as I got down, even standing in the immigration line, I opened my phone and on the web I started going on. Kashmiri Pandit. And there were no mainstream news. There were stray blogs here and there that my father was killed, my sister was killed, stuff like that. And 99% of the news which I saw was that there is a genocide of Muslims going on in Kashmir. The second news was that army is basically killing and raping people in Kashmir. Then I started talking to a lot of youngsters. I said, let me see what youngsters think. Most of the youngsters, Hindu and Muslim both, internationally to everybody, almost everybody, they felt that Kashmir is basically a Muslim region which India illegally wants to occupy. I asked some youngsters, okay, what is the meaning of Kashmir? Where do you think this name came from? They said it's an Islamic name. It came from Arab. It's a Muslim name. But Kashmir is not a Muslim name. Kashmir is named after Rishi Kashyap. Rishi is a sage, a scientist like Einstein and all. And when they go into spiritual innovations and spiritual discoveries, then they are called rishis. And that was the triggering point. I said, when an aware person like me also doesn't know about it, the children do not know about it, and whatever we know about Kashmir, we know through political lens or media lens. What politicians tell you, what the Prime Minister of Pakistan is saying, or what the Prime Minister of India is saying. Second way we know Kashmir is what CNN is saying, what BBC is saying, or what Indian magazines and newspapers are saying. And almost everybody, the Bollywood, mainstream books, everybody was saying the same thing. If you read them, Ram Gopal Verma, famous director, said, now India will be recognized as pre-Kashmir Files era and post-Kashmir Files era. So let's take that. If you talk about pre-Kashmir Files era, and if you had asked anybody, most of the people used to say, "Arey छोड़ो ना, इसको हटाओ ना, काटो फाटो अलग करो यार, काय इस परेशानी में, at least we'll be peaceful." Which means just let it go, doesn't matter, let it go. But let it go where? Then I went to Kashmir. In Kashmir, when I started talking to local people, I said, okay, if you want freedom, will you go to Pakistan? They said, no. I said, what will you do? They said, we just want freedom. I said, but why do you want freedom? From whom do you want freedom? They said, we don't know, we just want freedom. So I said, okay, suppose imagine you are a free country. Kashmir is a free, sovereign nation. What will you do? Who will you trade with? Where will the money come from? You have no industry, you have nothing. With so many years of terrorism, you have made it one of the poorest regions. What will you grow? What will you do? We don't know, we just want freedom. Then I said, okay, how will you get freedom? They said, we'll get freedom by fighting. How will you fight? Who will you fight? Those people, the Kashmiri Muslims, the young boys and girls, even they had no idea who are they fighting with. Indian state. What is an Indian state? Kashmir is not Indian state. Kashmir is the apex spiritual knowledge center of a civilization called Bharat. How will you free from our civilization? Then I went on to study what is the role of Kashmir, why Kashmir is so important. Then I realized two things. That Kashmir is one of the oldest places, oldest regions of Hindu civilization. Anything which you are proud of today, anything, you name from Upanishad, you name yoga, you name Ayurveda, you know the greatest astronomy, any kind of science, grammar, philosophy, aesthetics, Buddhism. I just met some Afghani Hindus. All the Buddhism you see, it basically evolved, the philosophical side of Buddhism evolved in Kashmir. Shankaracharya, the entire philosophy of Advaita, it's all from Kashmir. The quantum physics which we talk about, the essence, the theory of that quantum physics was invented in Kashmir. So how will you cut Kashmir off from this thing? Will you change the name Kashmir because it is based on Shankaracharya? Will you change the name of Shankaracharya Hill? What will you do? How will you change it? So that was another question which I came to my mind. I'm just telling you how the process evolved. And I said, then why the whole world is interested in Kashmir? There's a conflict going on in Bengal, Northeast. Nobody is interested in the world. So many conflicts are going around in the world. Right now, there's a war going on in Ukraine. 60% of the world has voted in favor of that. And not voted, abstaining is as good as that. Most of the world doesn't even care about Ukraine and Russia war. Then why suddenly everybody is interested in Kashmir? Then I realized there are three places in this world which are militarily or geopolitically very, very crucial. One of them is Cuba, another is Brussels, and third is Kashmir. Because if you have your missiles in these three places, you can destroy the entire globe in 1 second. This is why Kashmir is so important to America. This is why Kashmir is so important to Russia, Germany, England, and all those people with lots of China, all these people who basically make nuclear missiles and destructive things and whose main industry is war against humanity. Why is media interested in Kashmir? That was the most crucial thing. Media is interested in Kashmir because media somehow runs on a narrative that Muslims are minority in India. And 90%, I'm just saying metaphorically, figuratively, don't go by this thing, but majority of international media in last 20-30 years, since the oil was discovered in Middle East, has been funded by Middle Eastern countries. And after 9/11, since everybody started looking at anybody who came from Middle East or from Gulf with suspicion, so therefore they started a political campaign using media as a vehicle, calling anybody who talks about Muslims anywhere in the world, started calling them Islamophobic, just to shut them up. There is a merit in this argument, but in context of India, it had no merit. Because in Kashmir, the demography was 98% Muslims and 2% Hindus. They were minority amongst minorities. But the biggest scam or the biggest intellectual dishonesty, if media has ever played, it's in the case of Kashmir. They did not tell the world it was the majority which was persecuting minority. They kept telling the world that Kashmiri Pandits, as if they were majority. Nobody before Kashmir Files came asked, how come a region which was a sacred 100% Hindu population suddenly has become 2% Hindu population, and as of today, as I speak to you, not even 2%, is hardly 0.1%. Not even that, few hundred people are left Hindus are left in Kashmir. Another problem was the Hindu culture has evolved in such a way, 1,000 years of rule by the minorities. First, Islamic minorities, then the Christian minorities. For 1,000 years, they ruled us. Our DNA, our consciousness has evolved in such a way that we feel guilty talking about Hindu interest. The whole world talks about it. Jews talk about their interest, Muslims talk about their interest, Christians talk about their interest, Buddhists also assert themselves everywhere. They go in saffron robes, they have no problems. But Hindus always felt ashamed talking or asserting themselves or their rights. And the last but not the least, another issue was human rights. As far as Kashmir is concerned, every single human rights organization or NGO has failed. Not just failed, they conspired to misinform the world. They kept talking about human rights of Muslims who are living in Kashmir today on something which is not evidence based that army is oppressing them. Why nobody has questioned that why there was no army over there before 1990? The first question should be why army is there after all? Army is in Kashmir because all Hindus were killed, raped, looted, their houses burned. They were made to run and leave their motherland of their ancestors, and the terrorists took over the state. And when the terrorists took over the state, at that time the local Muslim population gave them shelter, both physical, financial and emotional. Till date, in Kashmir, you won't find Kashmir media, Kashmiri politicians, and when now in today's context when I say Kashmiri, it means 99.9% Muslim population. Not even one person has raised voice against terrorism. So it was a very complex issue. Now coming back, this was the background of Kashmir which I discovered. And I said, now what is the role of Kashmiri Pandit? For 32 years, I was born in Gwalior and my neighbors were Kashmiri Pandits. Before making this film, I didn't even know their story, that how they ran away from there, how their family members were killed. I got to know only recently. Similarly, in your office or your neighbors or somewhere you must have encountered Kashmiri Hindus. It's not possible that you have spent all your life and you have never met Kashmiri Hindu, but when you looked at them, you never looked at them with empathy because you didn't know their story. When you meet a Jew, even if he was never persecuted, that person or his family, the minute he says, I'm a Jew, you look at him with empathy. You say, as a community, they have suffered a lot. That was the narrative which was created by Hollywood movies, by mainstream media. But Hindus were ignored as if they never existed. It didn't matter. And this was not the first time. It has been happening for a long time. When Mughals came, when Aurangzeb came, millions of Hindus were butchered and killed, but history never recorded it. Britishers have killed Hindus. I mean, Jallianwala Bagh is what? Do you see anybody in the world recognizing it? Now imagine the same thing happens with Britishers. One American, if he is kidnapped, it becomes a global news. Hundreds and thousands of Hindus were killed at a gunpoint. Nobody even talks about it. Mopla genocide. Direct Action Day. Tens of thousands of Hindus were killed. There are pictures. Open just now, you can, after this speech, you can open and just write Direct Action Day. Pictures shot by American photographers. You know what? Skeletons and skeletons lying on Calcutta street, and there are vultures and hundreds of vultures over them. Those are the pictures. But nobody has shown you those pictures. You have not seen them. Will you ever find one Jew in this world who doesn't know about Holocaust? Will you ever find one Yazidi who doesn't know about their persecution? Will you ever find one Armenian who doesn't know about their genocide? Will you ever find one Rwandan who doesn't know about his genocide? Will you ever find one black person in this world who doesn't know about slavery? We were enslaved for 1,000 years and nobody talks about that. Do you know that all these people who come from Africa to Europe, Hindus, who call them Sinhalese and Surinamis and all that, do you realize they were slaves? Nobody ever spoke about us. Because this is not in our DNA. We never play victim card. We believe in the theory of karma. We believe, yes, it happened, This is part of life. Sukh, dukh, everything is part of life. If this has happened, no problems. We will rise above this. Maybe God wants this. We will educate ourselves, and we never left education and vidya, and we kept surviving, which is why, despite 1,000 years of rule, 1,000 years of enslaving by the minorities and real cruel people, worse than Hitler. You can't imagine what Aurangzeb has done. They destroyed all temples, all spiritual centers. Britishers have looted everything possible. The British Museum in which you see is full of India's wealth. All these big buildings which you see in France and Britain and Portugal and all, that money, it is made out of our blood, our sweat, our money. Most of the knowledge which you see in this world has been taken over from India without giving any IPR fees or royalty or copyright. Because the history of West is full of thieves and invaders. They have destroyed most of the world to take resources. And Hindus had no Hindu like me, whose father translated all Vedas and all Kalidasa. Both Kalidasa and Vedas were written in Kashmir. Even I didn't know about our own genocide. And that's the time I said this story must be told. Every Indian, and no more business of Kashmiri problem, Kashmir's problem, Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Hindu, as if it's some alien geographical region जो हमारा है ही नहीं, हम क्यों bother करें? जब भाई हमारे आएगी बात तब देखेंगे. I said no. I'm going to tell this story. And I'm not going to tell this story for you. I'm going to tell this story for your children. I want your children to be proud of their ancestry, of their roots, where they are coming from. And that's why I picked up Krishna Pandit as the protagonist of this story. Today, all of you put your hand in your heart if you have children, if you have grown up teenage children. What bothers you the most? How they are being brainwashed in Western universities and turning up against you. Am I right? Yeah. All the mothers can relate with me. And this is a common pain. And that's why I said the fragmented Hindus have to be united. And they have to be united with pride. They have to understand that saving Kashmir is saving yourself, saving your children. And that's when we started working on Kashmir. And I said, like media and like politicians, we are not getting into that. We are going to tell the real human stories. The world talks about humanity a lot. The world talks about human rights, empathy, compassion, and all those kind of things, the fake political weaponry. I said, we will actually tell human stories. And when I started making this film, like Pallavi told you, that we travel all over the world, we identified first generation victims, we interviewed them, and with, like you go and pray in a temple, with same kind of feeling, we surrendered ourselves to those stories, and we have presented those stories without adding or subtracting anything from them, as honestly as possible. Nobody in this world, till date, film has been, we started showing in November, it's been now almost 7, 8, 9 months, and till date, even the worst of the critics of this film have not been able to point out if there is one scene, one shot, one dialogue, one word in the film which is factually incorrect. This is the most truthful film ever made on any genocide, because this is the only film in the history of cinema which is based on the video testimonials of the victims whose mothers were raped, whose children were killed, whose parents were cut into pieces. Ajay ji is sitting here, his father was also killed. In fact, their biggest complaint is that why have you diluted? This is just 10% what happened. I said, I don't have the guts to show 100%. When this film came out, a lot of people said it's an Islamophobic film. I had signed up for this, so I knew this was going to come. But a question you must ask, I'm sure a lot of people tell you also this thing. Now you must also ask yourself one question. How many of you have seen the film? Okay, so a lot of people have seen the film. In this film, we have not used the word Muslim even once. The only time we have used the word Muslim is when the protagonist in the climax, the hero of the film in the climax says that not only Hindus, even Muslims were killed by terrorists. This film is against terrorism. But the media and the politicians and the communists and the leftists and the people whose businesses run because of terror organizations, they try to paint it as Islamophobic film. So my question is this: why is it that when I talk about terrorism, you think about Islam? It's in your mind. It's not in my mind. Second thing is, they say, where is the other side of the story? Why have you not shown the other side of the story? When all these 8 or 9 big films like Roja, Fiza, Fana, Haider, Weather and all these films were made, and they were justifying terrorists, all these films were set in the early 90s, late 80s, and they did not even mention the word Kashmiri Pandit or Hindu whose original land is Kashmir. Not even one person asked, where are Kashmiri Hindus in your film? Nobody asked. Because nobody knew about it. At least today everybody is asking, questioning. There is conversation, there are debates. And what this film ultimately achieved is that all the Hindus in the world who were going in different directions at least came together, got united, no problems, even if in pain, but they got united. This film has started a new movement, and that movement is about that of realization that what the power of emotional togetherness can do. There is not even one newspaper or magazine today in the world, be it New York Times, be it Washington Post, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, you name it, which is today not discussing this film. And that is the victory of our unity. They realized that they cannot fool the world any longer, because when 1.3 billion Hindus will unite, that is the biggest power in this world. And what does it mean to be a Hindu, united Hindu? A united Hindu means a powerful voice for humanity. Because we are the only community which has never attacked anyone, which has never invaded anyone, which has not harmed anyone. We have not waged wars against anybody. We have no culture of looting or stealing somebody else's money. We have no culture like that. What happened when all this genocide happened? Kashmiri Pandit community said we have to educate our children. And they educated their children, and today they are the most educated community in the world with 100% education rate. When India found freedom, the literacy rate was very low. We became poorest country in the world. There were no food grains. We had no army. We had no roads. We had no electricity. We had almost nothing. Britishers took every single thing from us. And not only that, India was divided into 2 parts on religious grounds by Britishers, one Pakistan and one Bharat. But what did we do? They invested in radicalization. They radicalized their children. What did we do? We educated our children. We made them engineers, doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants. In America, in Britain, in Europe, wherever you go, you will find some of the best doctors, engineers are Indians, Hindus specifically. Today, IT industry is ruled by them. The finance sector, some of the top executives in finance sector, in banking, are Indian women. Wherever you go, Indians are shining because 70 years a generation changes. Our parents sacrificed so much for us. You sacrifice for your children, but this generation is ruling the world with their education. It's been last 4 years, we have not taken a break. Even in COVID, when people were forced to take a break, we did not take a break. We kept working, we shot the film during COVID, we edited the film during COVID, we have been running around during Omicron. We were in US showing the film to senators and congressmen so that they recognize it, acknowledge it as a genocide. Pallavi suffered from Omicron, I suffered from COVID, but we did not even rest for a minute. Till now, I have a broken knee. During shooting, I broke it. I need a surgery as soon as possible. It's been delayed for 1 year now. In fact, more than 1 year, 4 months now. Finally, on 9th of July, I have taken a date in India. Why? Because I couldn't go home. Why are we doing this? I was telling Ajay ji today that when this decision came whether to make this film or not, it's on a paper, I wrote down, okay, what are the pros and cons of making this film? I said, okay, if I make this film, then there will be a life threat on me. True, they shoot a fatwa against me. When the film released, I had to walk with security in India with guns because there's a threat to life. I said, most of the Bollywood will stop working with me after this. True. Now nobody will work with me. I said we have to give 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. We cannot do anything until then. Not even 1 penny we can earn from outside. So we have to put in all our savings, life savings. We have to mortgage our house, car, everything. If we have to make it, we did it. In every which way, there was only loss written. Anybody with any rationality, any sanity, any common sense won't jump into making this film. And this is the reason for 32 years, Ajay ji, nobody made this film. Because making this film means threat to your life. It means losing your money. Your children will be insecure. So why did we do that? Why we are running for that? Because this life is worth it only if you find a purpose. Everybody makes money, everybody has cars, everybody has houses. आप 4 कमरे का घर लेंगे, somebody has 5 rooms. You take a mansion, somebody will have a bigger mansion. You buy a Porsche, somebody will buy McLaren, somebody will buy a aircraft. I mean, what will you do? You buy the best aircraft in the world. Elon Musk, Bezos will go to space in his rocket. You will never feel the sense of accomplishment. Never in your life you will find the meaning of life when you say, yes, I feel good about myself. And this became the purpose of our life. We said we will bring Hindu pride back. This apologetic attitude that anybody comes and attacks you, says something about you, and you feel shy talking about your own rights, we will tackle that. And we will bring Hindu genocide of Kashmir at global level. These are the objectives we set for ourselves. Yes, today most of the world is recognizing it as a genocide. We were in UK Parliament some time back, just a few weeks back. So many members of Parliament came. Everybody was talking about the genocide, and they said it's time the world recognized. The other day we were at Human Rights Defense in Netherlands in Den Haag. There everybody was talking about it. All the media is talking about it. In India, even the terror organizations, even the Pakistan is also saying, no, it's not a genocide. Thank God. They are at least discussing whether it's a genocide or not. Earlier people were indifferent to it. So it has given a lot of power to our cause. And we are not stopping here. After this, we are making a web series on this issue. We had made a documentary. I wish you had seen it today, but very soon, in 3-4 months, we are going to put it on public on YouTube or somewhere where you can see it definitely. We are doing a lot of work for Kashmir. Because without Kashmir, Kashmir means Shiva. Shaivism, Mahadev, jo aap kehte hain, Har Mahadev, Shiva comes from Kashmir. And without following the principles of Shiva, there cannot be any world peace. UNO, NATO, US, China, they can try whatever they want. United Nations can do whatever they want. Because this is not a fight of guns only. This is a fight of truth. This is a fight of justice. So if the world peace has to come, it will come only through one principle, and which is the principle of Shiva, that is, all of us are one. Somebody asked Maharshi Ramanna, a great Indian sage, a BBC correspondent had gone there to take his interview for a couple of hours. And the first question he asked to Maharshi Ramanna, how to treat others. Maharshi Ramanna opened his eyes for a second and said, there are no others. This is the concept of Bharat. This is what Hindu civilization is all about. That you can have millions of gods, yet we are all one. This concept of oneness, unless we practice it, unless the world believes in it, unless the world has zero tolerance to terrorism and terror organizations, unless the world decides that we will expose everybody who gives intellectual or any kind of support or shield to terrorism, we will not do business with them. Until that time, there will be no end to terrorism. And which is why we are running day and night to spread this message of oneness and world peace, which we believe if it has to come, it will come only through great Hindu philosophy. This is why we are here. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.